All right, hello everybody. Good to see everybody again. My name is Inyan Eagle Elk. I was born in Sioux City, Iowa, and I'm an enrolled member of the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska. Um, Currently living in Rapid City, South Dakota. Uh, Earned a degree in the applied sciences of culinary arts in 2009, and been studying the culinary arts since 2006. Um, and nowadays, kind of a food sovereignty advocate and a, a cultural advisor. I do a lot of cooking demonstrations, outdoor teaching, foraging, kind of growing things. Uh, just a lot of kind of uh, odds and ends and random kind of things, but it's all kind of culturally connected and stuff like that. So yeah, we just live here with my wife and my daughters here, and and that's about it for the introduction uh, part of that. I'm also Rosebud tribe. My mom is Ramina Eagle Elk. She's from Rosebud tribe. Um, so then I also got like Dakota and some French and stuff in there too, you know. So um and kind of asked to come here again and share some knowledge about some teachings that we've come across through our travels and it kind of the sessions you guys have been having, or I don't know who's been following along, but they've been collecting uh traditional foods. And so we were kind of asked to come here and to to show the possibilities of some of the stuff that we could do with the items. So we did some beverages last time. We did coffee drinks, some cold teas, hot teas, stuff like that, and kind of introduce some of the traditional foods. Um, put quotations on them, because it's kind of uh, sits in that sacred foods type around us, kind of all throughout the Turtle Island area. We have these traditional sacred foods that we have in our ceremonies, and um, we kind of have them in this situation where they're sacred and here, kind of like doing the Red Road teachings and going throughout life and learning all these teachings and being among some of the relatives and the various tribes around. It becomes almost a story. It's like a year-long process of dealing with these traditional foods, and and it takes a lot of time and effort to gain knowledge and understanding from each and one of the single one of the items. So, last time we did the beverage, and then this time we'll do some snacks that we kind of utilize throughout the years. So we have a lot of these items here that we're gonna do. So we have a menu that um, we might have up here somewhere. We had it last time, but we have the Prairie snacks is what we called it. We have a Tiŋpsiŋla cookie. Tiŋpsiŋla, even a wild prairie turnip is kind of what it is in the English language. But the Lakota Wogalaka is a Tiŋpsiŋla. Um, and then we have the mushroom. It's like a people call it a puffball that grows around. We have uh, jerky. We call it jerky, around the house, and stuff because we kind of use it as a jerky. We have it dried and and we also have a dish called corn textures, a snack called corn textures, and um and again, like when I say, we have relationships throughout the year with these items. This is kind of some of the ways that we utilize them at home. So we have bulks of these items, and we kind of pulled out from our food storages like last time, and we brought all the jars out. My cat likes to stop. My cat likes to jump around up here, so sorry. Her name's Salem, but so we brought them out, and last time we put all the teas and all the coffees and everything that we were going to use, and a lot of these things, we harvested them on our own. We collaborate with other people that grow, um, and participate in like farmers markets in various towns, Rapid City, Spearfish, kind of up in the hills. There's various places that we kind of like do our tradings with when it comes to corn. Our puffball, the mushroom, it's kind of like a once a year type of thing when you can get them. And the Tiŋpsiŋla again, that's also like once a year type of thing that you got to get a bunch of them. So it's pretty fun to do all these things to harvest, as they call it, and build a relationship over the years. And we're just going to go over some of these things, and you can use them as you want. And I think I'd like you guys to take notes too. Like, so if you have pen and paper around you guys, just take notes on some of these things, because from my understanding, you guys have the information of how to get a lot of these items and where to get them. And maybe some of you have a lot of these items already. And this is just another way for everyone to kind of enjoy some of these foods that we have around here. And with that being said, we just try to add some newer things to it too. So we'll put like honey and things. We use that for sweeteners instead of using like cane sugars. Agave nectar, we try to use that instead of honey for vegans and stuff like that, people who don't want animal byproducts, and maple syrup for a sweetener. So, and we like to source all that stuff with like intimately with other people all across Turtle Island that specialize. Some of these people they spend a lot of their lives to do that. So, I encourage you guys to take notes, and I think when we're all done here, I'll get with my sister there and send over a lot of these recipes that we kind of wrote down and typed up for everybody. So it'll be recipes from what we talked about last time with our teas, coffees, and just those kind of beverages, and to all the stuff that we're going to talk about here. So we'll have a recipe breakdown of stuff like that. So um, and again, we do a lot of these cooking demonstrations, and we like to do them in person, but this is okay too, and I'll kind of prepare these for you as examples that I have here, and present it to you right here, and but it'd be nice at some point in time to come in contact with some of you guys with this stuff, and or you can make it on your own. So we'll start with this uh Prairie cookie. So it's a Tiŋpsiŋla is what we call it, or a prairie turnip, a wild prairie turnip, and they kind of have various growing seasons throughout, but um, they start blooming around in June, early July, and depending on the region, how much rain that we're getting, they're available out in the prairies all over. We get them from Black Hills area, kind of Amatotipila, down in the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, Rosebud Indian Reservation, kind of out north of here. We kind of go out a few different places by the prairies over there. Um, but we try to make our travels throughout the prairies, kind of looking, and there's a certain way to dig them, and I think you guys went over that, how to find them and locate them and dig them and stuff. So, this is kind of what one of the things you can do with it. So But we go around, and not a lot of people kind of do this practice around us because we sometimes we go and we're like very few of us kind of still kind of create things like this. Um, so they're they're just kind of things that are hard to keep around too around the house. You got prairie turnips, you braid them and you dry them. So a lot of people just soak them overnight and boil them and put them in a soup, bapa soup with dry buffalo meat and dried corn or washtunkala they call it, or rice, and they eat it like that. But we do that too. So we kind of prepare it all types of ways. We make purees with the Tiŋpsiŋla. We make granola. But mainly, we had the powder last time and we made ice with it. We kind of have it powdered up here. It's really fine powder here, and it comes from how sorry the Team Silla. This is just we pick them and put them in jars and stuff for kind of what we're gonna do later on. We use a lot of jars for things, but we have braids. A lot of times we'll put the whole braid and we have a couple of earth pots that we fill with cold water and we put the entire braids in there. And that's for like when we're doing big gatherings. We'll put the entire braids in there and uh they kind of attach themselves to the braid like that. And I'll save a lot of these things too because we Azealia with like we smudge with these too, like the smell of it. If you ever get the chance and you have the braid and you have it at this point, smudge around with it, especially when you're working with it or even around the home. It kind of has like a really nice smell to it, kind of almost like a cinnamon smell to it to me, and it smells really good. But we kind of take it from like on the braid. We participate in the creation story of it. And there's a lot of creation stories for Team Sila too. So we like to enjoy these traditional foods for that reason is because there's a lot of history and it's really good to hear everybody's perspective on it and participate in it. And this is kind of what we have, so um uh the powder is important because this is what we add to the granolas and what we add to the ice is like we did last time and the almond milk for our coffee drink. But it's really powdery and it's hard to keep around too because once we grind it, all our kids eat it, our aunties, uncle, everybody that's around kind of like eats this up. It's hard to like keep these around. Well, it's easy to keep them like this because they're really hard. Even then, they bite them, they take them on. Pretty soon your braid's missing. People like to take them and it's all good. It's all good, it's for everybody to eat and participate in. And we get it to this point, we add it to a lot of things. And that's kind of the one of the menu items today is the prairie cookie. So I went and I made the cookie that we like to eat. I made the simple one. We was talking to my sister earlier and we kind of were talking about these and she was excited about it. And I was telling her, we put bison marrow in them a few, like more than a few times. They're really good with bison marrow, but they're little cookies that we make like that. And the bottom, they kind of get a little bit of brown on them, but um, they I kind of put a fork on them to make them look like peanut butter cookies. You know how you do the little crosshatch of the peanut butter cookies, but they're kind of like little dry cookie snacks. So we try to make all these traditional foods in a powder form so everybody can eat them. Babies, old people with really bad teeth. They got the old grandpas and grandmas that don't have teeth. They got dentures or they kind of wear their teeth proudly and they have like the big gaps and their teeth hurt all the time. So we try to make everything soft form for everybody to eat. So that's kind of one of the reasons why we um, process these a little farther. So you might have uh, got the teachings of digging them, the multiple different ways of digging them and braiding them and then drying them to storing them like in things like this or situations. Even people slice them when they're fresh and then they dry them in the sun so they're chips, so they're easier to rehydrate in the soups. Um, and I got a few moms and a few aunties that we pick Tiŋpsiŋlas for that they request them not braided and they just slice them on their own, peel them and slice them and dry them, and then they put them in jars like this. So when they make bappa soup, they just have to dump it in there and boil it, and it's not don't take so long. And then we go to the powder process and then into the cookie thing. And it's kind of like if any of you guys do the cooking or anything, it's just your basic cookie recipe, I guess. Um, and they're kind of chewy still too. So I like to keep them a little bit moist, like how they are. These are kind of have a little flex to them, but they are dry. I mean, we take them on the trails with us, and they break up like that, and they're just kind of like chewy and see the bend in them. They're just we kind of keep them like that, and we stack them in jars, like mason jars, like how we do here, or we put them in a bag. But they don't really last so long. You know, once the kids and the wife and the relatives get them, we pass them out to everybody. Um, they kind of go really fast. And the process is really simple. You got grind it into this powder form, and you can achieve all the ice cubes that we did and the coffee creamers with it, and you can make the cookies with it. So this is the base, is the powder. And right now I got a one of my little brothers, Lorenzo. He's a welder, and we're kind of collabing and making a machine that helps me to grind more and more and more of these. Because ideally, I want to take large braids and grind them into this powder and do bigger batches of things for our events and things like that, and our all our doings. Um, so part of the recipe that we had for these guys is we used buffalo fat and honey for these and water, just enough water to to make a little cookie dough. And it almost, like there's a like if you make tarts or anything like that, there's a dough called pâte sucrée. It's kind of like that. It's real temperamental. It's almost like a pie dough too, like how you would put the butter in your flour and you mix it in with your flour, and they sometimes you want big flakes like corn flakes for a flaky crust, or sometimes you want them small pieces of fat and flour like the size of a pea or even smaller than that, to achieve various types of textures for your cookies or your doughs, your pastry doughs, and even biscuits, things like that. So and again, this was about probably half a jar of like 2 cups of uh, whole team sila like this, grind it up in a powder form. And we used about a cup of the powder for the cookie recipe, and about I'm smiling because it's a lot of sweet. It's like 3 tablespoons of honey in it. So it's a cup of flour, powdered team sila, powdered prairie turnip, 3 tablespoons of honey, and 2 tablespoons of buffalo fat. And we're fortunate. We have an, a Native American owned company right just a couple blocks down the road here called Storming Buffalo, and we collaborate with those guys, and they provide little jars of buffalo fat, and they kind of sell them for external use and internal use. So we like to use them for a lot of things. Otherwise, um, when we prepare fat, when with the buffalo, um, it's 2 types. It's the outer fats. It's like your outside of the fats everywhere in the back and the sides and the legs everywhere. There's pockets of fat, and you render that out and all the hard pieces, and you kind of keep rendering it until you get this white fat. And then the other part of it is all the stuff on the inside. So your fats that are covering your entrails, the livers, the kidneys, and the intestine, all those little fat pockets in there. Those are for your food items, and the outside fats might be for your lotions and your uh, other kind of things, your chapstick and things like whatever you might make soap out of it. But over there they got a good selection of it. Sometimes it's not really clearly identified. So if you wanted the fat for making wasna, um, like the traditional foods like your pemmikins and things, um, it might not be advertised as out inside fat, so you might have to buy the kidneys and the stuff like that to get the big pieces of fat in there. Or else the fats that you're going to get are going to be the big pieces of the fats that are on the outside. And that stuff is edible too. I mean, you can eat it. It still has the same amount of stuff. It just kind of has more, however they call them, the what do they call those? The saturated omega-3 fatty acid fats. It has more of that in the inside of it stuff. So it's easier for our bodies to process that kind of fat than the outside fat. So and that's kind of why we like to use the fats on the insides. But this particular case, we picked up some of these from our relatives. They did a really great job of providing all types of sizes of buffalo fats for all types of things, and used it for our cookies here. So that's kind of the what's in this cookie here is the buffalo fat and the honey and the water, and you make a dough. And it kind of resembles like that kind of cookie dough type thing because I saved a little hunk for you guys to look at. Um, Use the sacred Ziploc bag for everybody. But this is kind of what the dough looks like. It's in this form. It's just kind of like a tamale. If you've ever made tamales, it's kind of like that. So you could still kind of spread it, but you could still kind of mold it. So you get your little cookie cutter. You can roll it out too if you wanted. Use some more of this team seal flour on it, and then kind of roll it out and things like that. So, and then you could also eat it like this, because it doesn't have eggs in it, and it's like a kind of like a cookie dough type thing. And that's kind of what it looks like. So I thought I'd save a nub for you guys to kind of see the texture of it when it's like this. And not wearing gloves because you guys aren't here to eat it. This is just going to be for us and the family and stuff like that. So these I've made a few jars of these things. When the girls got back, they kind of annihilated everything. They like when we did this for you guys because we have some stuff left over. Like last time we kind of had leftovers of all that stuff, and it was really good for us because we got to enjoy all the rest of the stuff. So just like now, I wish you guys were here to kind of like take a bite, like a virtual bite of it. But again, it's really good. It goes good with those teas and coffees that we had before, so you can have coffee time or tea time with it, um, with the cookies and with the fat in it. It's really good, and it's a good little snack to take with you when you're out doing your foraging because these prairie turnips are from last season. So, and we still have a whole bunch. I mean, we still got a couple braids. We have some jars left over too. So we still have a lot of Tiŋpsiŋla for our doings when we go do our pilgrimages here and there. We still have a lot left over for doing stuff. And I thought I'd pick this up just because we like to support the businesses in town here. So we're always going to be out purchasing the honeys and the things like that for all this stuff. But that's the prairie cookie, the Tiŋpsiŋla cookie. Um, again, I wish you guys would have been here to eat it or whatever, but I'll do that for you guys later on. And but yeah, I just thought I'd show you the dough, the cookies, and there's two ways you can kind of do it. I roasted these for 10 minutes in the oven at 375 degrees. So you could do it that way, or you could do 425 degrees for 5 minutes. And that kind of gives them a little, um, keeps the moisture in it. And, or sometimes, we put them in the dehydrator. And when they're in the dehydrator, they're kind of more, how it's dehydrated, takes all the moisture out of it. They're really crumbly and it's really good that way. And that's kind of how we, um, sometimes when we make cereals and like the granola type of cereal, we like to have it the dehydrated way. It seems like it absorbs more moisture and stuff like that. So whenever, if you eat it alone, it's really dry in your mouth. But whenever you have it mixed with your granolas and things like this, so you can take it from this point and eat it like cereal or put it with your oats and your uh, seeds, your pumpkin seeds or your squash seeds and sunflower seeds and whatever you guys put in your individual uh granola recipes, you can add these into them too. So and we do stuff like that, here at home. And that's just a good little base for everybody and that's kind of what they are. They're called Prairie turnip cookies. So and that's them. And that's one of the items I wanted to share with everybody. And I hope you enjoyed that one. And after we get done with all these stuffs, we could do questions and things like that. And again, I'll have recipes sent in. So hopefully in that list of all uh the things that you guys are keeping a track with how to harvest and find and locate and identification and storage, preservation things. Um, Hopefully we can get it to where these recipes are in there with um for everybody to enjoy to load and to maybe print out or to save on your phones to follow through and do these little batches at home because it's good to have them when you're out hiking, doing your pilgrimages. People like to go out and pray and go on long hikes to places and do offerings and things like that. But at the same time, we have to take care of ourselves. Um, Really good health benefits for these. Again, we talked about the Tiŋpsiŋla being a good source of calcium and protein for us. The honey, same as the health benefits. We have the antioxidants, the anti-inflammatory uh, things that go along with it, antibacterial, and the buffalo fat is just a good alternative fat to use for the participation of the buffalo harvesting, things like that. So it has all it's different from the other fats like shortening and butter and things like that. It's like a lower total fat, saturated fat, um, omega-3 fatty acids in there. And it's also anti-inflammatory too. So it's a really good cookie to have around. And it's really sweet because you can add more honey to it and make them more and more sweeter. But the team seal itself has a really distinct floral, earthy flavor on its own. So you could just kind of put a little bit of honey in it and it'll make it really good too. So it's the level of honey would be up to you too in that kind of recipe. And also you could use maple syrup, you can use sugar, you can use coconut sugar, you can use coconut fat, you can use butter, you can put an egg in it. You could do any kind of other thing you want to achieve the kind of cookie that you want. Um, but that's just kind of it. That's what I wanted to share about the little cookies that we got. Oops. And the next thing that we'll talk about, again, you're going to be out in the prairies traveling around. Um, we we almost had the perfect scenario for this class too, because um, we had storms, thunderstorms come and rain come. And that's a really good situation for this next menu item. There's these little mushrooms, they're called puffballs that grow all over the prairie. And so they get real big. And then at a certain time they turn and then they kind of flatten out and then the inside turns like a styrofoam almost. And then it turns into a powder. And that powder is said to be a really, really good source of uh, it's like how you would say antimicrobial or uh, it's like how a dog's saliva is, it's like really helpful for cuts and burns and rashes and things like that. So that's what these mushrooms kind of do in that state. But whenever you're out in but then it snowed, and then it got really cold. And kind of what those mushrooms like is that storm comes and then it gets hot and then humid, and then they start to pop out these little white mushrooms everywhere. And they start out really small. So then they get bigger and bigger. And I got a cat fight in the back. So then um small mushrooms, medium size, then they get real big, like giant white mushrooms. And you sometimes you might have come across them walking around in the prairies and stuff. Then they turn brown. Sometimes they get overdone. Like I said, they turn into powder and you step on them and a big brown cloud comes poofing up. Um, but when they're small like that, it's really good to eat them. And so when dealing with mushrooms, there's a lot of different types of mushrooms out there. So these particular mushrooms that grow, you're gonna want to eat them kind of raw like that, how they're small, but you're gonna want to open them at first. If you have a knife with you, cut it in half, and it has to be entirely white all the way through and kind of firm. And it's kind of how you like a mozzarella stick. If you ever had a mozzarella stick, um, it's kind of like has that texture of it. So the other kind of mushrooms that look like that, when you cut it open, they're dark on the inside, or sometimes they'll have the gills, they call them, underneath there, and don't eat those. But if you, they're little white mushrooms and you cut them and they open up. But uh, we had the storms, but the snow came, so I was hoping while we were down out doing our outdoor stuff this last week, through the Easter weekend, I was hoping that there would be some growing, but it was too cold out where we were at, to have that. So we just kind of uh didn't really have any anyway, but kind of one of the things that we do while we're doing all this stuff is we we dry it, and this is kind of what they would look like. Well, it is them. It's them, but it's what they look like and then these are just the salt and pepper ones that we make. So they're just the pieces of the puffball, like well, they're round and small. Sometimes they're the size of a golf ball up to the size of a softball. And you can slice them thin, but these are when they're small, and we slice them about a quarter inch thick and then season them with salt and then hit them with some pepper. And then we dehydrate them for about 8 hours and they turn into these little, um, we put them in soups like stir fries and we eat them in uh, salads. You just kind of crack them up like this and throw them in. We eat them all types of ways. I like to just eat them kind of like this. And I call it jerky, but it's just dehydrated mushrooms. Um, but they're dehydrated puffballs, and they have that um, medicine in them that was, some of the creation stories of these things, they're associated with that big last flood that happened when we all kind of raced to the to the tops of hills and stuff, and we were up the last of the families and the people two-legged people that were stuck up there with wolves. And as the water kind of receded, it got real humid and the atmosphere kind of changed, and these little mushrooms popped up. And through there, the vision and the dream was to eat them for health. And there's various amounts of stories around with them. I was kind of touching this one up a little bit too much, so I'll eat that later. But they're good to eat. I'll just eat it now. But you put salt and pepper on them. It's good, but I don't like to handle the mushrooms too much in your hand because you got the oils and heat on your hand, and they're real. It seems to me that mushrooms, when they're dry like this, if you keep holding on to them and handling them, you kind of do the. You just better eat it because it's like fungus, so it might start growing other funguses and stuff on it. Anyway, but so that's what we have. It's kind of like jerky, but it's basically just dried dehydrated mushrooms um and we're not too that's with the salt and the pepper. And this is like the teriyaki version of it. And we kind of make a teriyaki sauce, kind of our own version of it. And then it has on the menu it says ginseng root, but we didn't use ginseng root for this, but we used soy sauce, um, ginger, and maple syrup and ancho chilies for this. So it's not your traditional teriyaki sauce, but it's just kind of like something that has a kind of taste like that too. So we like to call it teriyaki puffball jerky. And that's kind of what we offered in the menu was this is the teriyaki puffball jerky. And this is kind of what it ends up looking like. And it gets really crispy and good. So these are the types of snacks you can take with you among the Tiŋpsiŋla cookie. But this is one of the things you could do with those with the so we've done a lot of things with these. Once they're at this form, they're just dehydrated. We call them, you can call them jerky or whatever, but they're just dehydrated mushrooms. You can rehydrate them and use them for, again, like stir fries and things like that. But what we really like to do with these teriyaki flavored ones, because they have the spice and the salt in it from the soy. But the soy sauce, you remember, it's a fermented thing. So it's fermented soy. So it has the antioxidants in it and it's good for your digestion and stuff like that. And it's also antimicrobial thing, because the fermentation process is good in some of the things, so that's why we like to use it. And also the ginger, when you add it to it, it also has the anti-inflammatory properties with the antioxidants, and it's really good for your digestion. With the maple syrup, with the good things that we have from the maple syrup with the heart health and the immune system functions. Um, and it's good with the spiciness with the ancho pepper because we got relatives down south that really like to take care of those peppers and 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 they kind of have all types of one, but we like to get those ancho chilies from them because those are really good um because of the capsaicin and all the peppers it's called capsaicin or whatever, but that's a really good thing for us. And that's kind of what we like to add to the mixture. So it's kind of like a teriyaki sauce. To me, it's not a real true teriyaki sauce, but it's kind of like our rendition of it kind of mixed in with our traditional foods. And that's kind of what it looks like and kind of like how it breaks down. And it has that really salty kind of ginger, sweet, spicy taste to it. Because, without it, it's good. It tastes like a puffball. It tastes like earth, like earth, and it's really good. So, with all the health properties that they have, you can add more to it with the soy and all that stuff and have um, a little snack kind of that has a little bit more than what it is. So that's that kind of prairie snack there. And that's another thing we would like to share with you guys with those puffballs because a lot of times you go and the puffball origin stories are there, the oral histories are there, but it's a lot of times you'll only catch it in its form where it's they use it to paint their bodies or to use as a thing to when you get cuts and burns. It's a powder that you can put on your cuts and burns, rashes and things like that, and it kind of mimics that dog lick, when it's really good for us, and it'll take care of all the bad things. Um, so that's that. And again, those that the only kind of thing you got to do is be out there, right after those thunderstorms when there's a lot of moisture and that humidity starts to pick up. And once that is it's a race because um I always think about the big flood cataclysm that this old stories are talking about because that's kind of the race that you have out there with these mushrooms is you're kind of there's a lot of animals that eat them too. So like bugs and stuff like that. So if you come across them and there's like a hole in it, there's probably a bug or a beetle or something in there, or other animals kind of eat it. So you kind of got to hurry up and get them while it's kind of fresh, kind of like how any kind of mushroom foraging anybody does. You kind of have a little window of opportunity there to get it before the elements do, before the other animals and things that also like to participate in it. So like that, kind of near that time. Sometimes you could get real big puff balls and kind of make this jerky, and you get uh, big jerkies, like real thick ones. And we like to put those inside of almost treat it like how you would a bappa soup and rehydrate it in your soups or like your squash soups or your bean soups. Just put big chunks of it in there and let it kind of rehydrate in there. So as you're kind of eating, you might get a big piece of hydrated puffball mushroom and get to enjoy all the added the properties that it has to kind of replenish. So that's one of the ways that we like to kind of remember our some of our creation stories and and by utilizing some of that puffball there. And like that's what I was hoping last time, but the snow came. I could have showed you guys the fresh ones and how they kind of look and what to look for and things like that. But again, maybe in the past, I'm quite certain you guys kind of went out in the field and you found them in their various stages. Sometimes you probably found small ones, medium-sized ones, and all the way up to the brown ones. Because later on in the season, that's how you're going to find them is the brown puffball, and those are good for those cuts and wounds. So if you ever find one, you could go ahead and pick that up and take it with you and use it for your cuts and your burns and things like that. If you're kind of too late with the edible portion of it, but um, I don't think I would eat the dried version, the powder version, when it gets brown. I would only eat it when it's fresh, kind of like in the spring, and then dehydrate it from there. So then you're able to keep it in your jars and things and use it for like look, it's been the whole year, so that's kind of how to do that. And that's how we have it offered in the menu as a puffball jerky. So and that has a teriyaki sauce recipe kind of with it. I know we have it in there as a ginseng, but we couldn't get a hold of any ginseng root. Um and we just use ginger instead because ginger is great anyway too. So we just kind of use that and kind of last, but not least, we have our corn textures. So kind of, now coming into these times, you might have already started your corn processes and things like that. A lot of you might grow corn, or know people that grow it. There's a lot of types, but some of these little appetizers or these little snacks that we do, I like to offer them to our children and loved ones around because it's a almost like a celebration. Personally, it's almost a celebration of such a great item like corn in all its different types. Um, and there's a lots of types of it too. So that's why I like to approach my family with a lot of the textures. And that's kind of what we called it. We called it corn textures because I did a lot of different textures. Not a lot, just as many as there are crunchy, smooth, soft, things like that. Salty, sweet, acidic. I like to kind of touch all the senses in the mouth to kind of excite them with it. So it's a way to just to celebrate the corn And again, it's one of the traditional foods, so it has a history, various tribes, different kinds of ways and how it come across the two-legged people. But nevertheless, we use it in our day-to-day lives. Lots of different forms of it. We have cornmeal in there that we roast, and that to us around here we call it washtunkala. It's just dried corn, and you dry it on the stalks and braid it, and then as soon as it's dried, then you shuck them and you get your corn, and then from there you can boil them until it's soft, and then dehydrate them. So then throughout the year they're ready to go, or you can grind them up into cornmeal and use it for breads and things like that. Um, part of the corn textures is I like to use a lot of the things. So the textures. So the roasted cornmeal is there because it has that crispy quality to it. And then I also use hominy because we like to administer the corn in that type of way. There's the new, not the new word for it, but there's a practice that was once not utilized, but there's a name for it called nixtamalization or mix. You might hear it as mixtalization or nixtamalization, but basically it's just administering lye to the corn kernel. There's different types of field corns too, so there's all types of varieties of corn. So some of these corns are sweet corn, some of them are popping corns, stuff like that. Some are corn that's just for animals to eat. Um, so some of these corns you administer the lye solution to it. Some tribes they have the powdered lye from ashes, and it's the white powder ash. That's they call it high efficiency ash. It's really high burning, high like hardwood ashes that they'll sift through to take out any big pieces, and they'll dilute it in water, and they'll boil their corn in it. And what it does is it'll eat away the outer layer of the corn, and it'll be easier processed in our body. So that nixtamalization it's a good thing to participate in because it makes the corn more available for our bodies to process. So if you know how to, cook like yellow sweet corn and you eat it and you notice in your you go bathroom in there and you'll see the corn in there. That's because it's not processed all the way through. So a lot of these tribes back then they would participate in that because they had the high efficiency ash and they had the corn and they knew to change this corn into a superfood. They would administer the mixilization to it, and it would enhance it, and it would make those vitamins and nutrients that the corn would have more readily available for our bodies to process through. And who kind of knows that there's like a lot of history of how that came to be, and but I figured it kind of took a lot of time in dealing with the corn plant to understand that when the people had a really good understanding of whatever you're putting in is kind of like fuel, and it'll come out a certain way. So they were probably paying attention really well to everything, really great attention to detail, and that's kind of one of the great things about hominy, or or that's one of the great things about it. It has that it's a superfood to us. We consider it a superfood in our home. So and another texture would be the corn pudding. Um, sometimes said my cat is in the back. They're sailing, just drinking water out of the faucet. So the other part of that corn pudding, some people, you grow up with corn pudding. It's just like cornmeal, flour, eggs, milk. Even they put the corn silk in it. And if we had fresh corn in the corn silk, and I had some corn silk left, because usually we dehydrate that too, the corn silk, because the corn silk is really good, but we're done with all that. We ate all of it up. But when there's fresh corn on the ear, it's really good to process your own corn starches from it, from the inner husk of it, and then the corn itself. And then also it's good to grow popping corn varieties because we have popcorn and all of the corn, the yellow corn, and we also have the white corn, and that's a good kind of corn. But that you can usually take white corn and administer the mixilization process to it. But sometimes a lot of the times you can get the white corn still in the whole kernel, and you could either make hominy out of it or you could just kind of eat it in that kind of form. So today, we kind of made it in that fashion, the white corn as part of the corn textures. And so there's popcorn, white corn, corn pudding, hominy, and roasted cornmeal. And it's kind of like a celebration of the corn to me. And the only thing we added to some of these things is honey for that, again, the more antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antibacterial properties of the honey. And then we seasoned it with Himalayan pink salt. And that salt is, we like to use the Himalayan sea salt because it's less processed. And by that, it has more of the access to those trace minerals that we could enjoy. And it tastes really good. We always have a variety of salts, but we used Himalayan sea salt for this uh, corn texture. So, for this kind of snack, it's kind of how we would administer it to the kids because they got to look at it visually. So, coming from the culinary school background, you kind of have your canvas here, your plain plate, and you might want to just put all your items on it. So for you, we'll have this plain plate here and we'll go ahead and plate it up kind of how I would if it was um for the kids because we have all this stuff around and this is kind of what our corn pudding ends up looking like. Um it's kind of like you could serve it hot or cold, but it has the honey in it and Himalayan salt. And I call it pudding, it's just because it has that kind of pudding texture when it's kind of hot. This, you develop it by cooking the yellow corn, and we put it in a pressure cooker and we cook it for a while until it kind of develops its own natural pudding stuff. And we'll put like a dollop of that on a plate for the snack. And you could get it creamier than this, to make it look like more of a pudding. But we'll call this the pudding, kind of what it looks like. If it was more refined and it was for like some sort of event, we would kind of have a nice smooth kind of pudding. And that's kind of how we have that in there, the honey, this Himalayan sea salt in there with the yellow corn. And then we have the white corn, which is also we pressure cook that, the white corn, and it kind of pops off all the hard shells of it too. So it'll kind of end up looking like exploded, kind of that. And we kind of use it for soups and chicken pozole type thing, among with our hominy, because you'll look at that with the kernels on it, and we'll just add that to the pile of corn like that. So on your plate, there's corn again, and then hominy, which I just brought to a boil and simmered it for some hours because it's already went through the process of mixilization. And as you can tell, the differences between the corns. This is mixtilized. It was administered the ash. So you can see you already can probably already know what this is for when you're going out there, but the difference between the white corn, it has the little husk still on it. You could kind of see it. This one doesn't. It was completely eaten away by the mixtilization. Um, Corn textures, white corn hominy, and we have the cornmeal. And this was again, we added the buffalo fat to it and honey, so it kind of came out like a crispy. Kind of looks like that. A lot of honey, and I put a paper towel in there to kind of catch some of that moisture if there was any. And you just kind of like dump it on the top of there. And the kids like that because it's this texture and texture and texture and texture. They'll also take this. This will be gone, but tomorrow afternoon it'll all be gone. And um, what else kind of corny stuff do we got here? And popping corn. So this one, you buffalo fat. Himalayan sea salt, and a good popping corn that you could source from your thing, and then we'll just like dump that on there any kind of old way, maybe even more because they like the popcorn. And again, this is a snack. You can take all these with you to put them in your coolers, things like that, and have them stored away in bags. You can dehydrate the white corn once it's cooked, the hominy once it's cooked. I think I have all the corn stuff on there, it looks like. And that's kind of what it would look like, would be a plop of all of the corn. I can't even see it. Corn textures, popping corn, the crunchy cornmeal, the corn pudding, the hominies. And that's kind of how they'll kind of administer it to them like this as a snack, and they'll just go through and it'll all be kind of gone. And that's kind of how we administer it too. And if you guys were near, we're administering it to however many of these there are, that's how many plates would be kind of coming out, and it would all kind of look like that, varying degree. A lot of that would be hot. I would probably serve you guys the pudding hot, be a lot more smoother and stuff like that. But just for the sake of the presentation, um, that would be kind of one of the prairie snacks or the things you would be out there because the people in the prairie will be out picking Tiŋpsiŋlas or the dry prairie turnip. We'll be out picking the puffball, and also we'd have some sort of relationship with growing corns, popping corn, yellow corn, white corn, your king corns for hominy purposes. And we got wood stoves. We keep fires. We keep coals, so we have the ash. We do participate in mixolization and things like that. We have relatives with honey who produce it. We have native companies that produce it and make it here locally. Himalayan salt, not so local, but it's around. You could get it various health food stores and things like that. I think the particular salt that we got was from a relative from over in that parts, and they brought it to us in that kind of way. So, um, and that was that. That was that for the corn textures. We did the puff jerky and the cookies, and hope you guys followed along and took some notes. If not, we'll work on getting those recipes to the website where all the other information is, so it'll be there for you guys for the anytime you need it when you're getting your puffball or when you're getting your prairie turnips or when you're growing corn and harvesting it and trading with your neighbors and your relatives and all that. So, um, with that, there it is, relatives. Thank you for following along and listening and taking part in our lives and kind of the things that we do with it. And it's just there's more to it, more things, more traditional foods to do. But this is just a little bit of some of the stuff that we come across, some of the things that we come to know, things we share with our families, stuff we have in the house that you can do too. You can have it too and do it this kind of way too. And that's kind of the point of all this. So again, I appreciate the opportunity.